This week on Dig Me Out. With your hosts, Jason Zia and Tim Minichi.
Jay, we're back again with another episode thanks to our Dig Me Out Union on Patreon. Join the union to vote on albums, pick one to discuss with us on the show, get access to bonus episodes, and our private Discord community. Keep the podcast ad-free and make the next episode happen by joining us at digmeoutpodcast.com. Jay, we are doing another patron suggested, picked.
Upgrade him.
Yeah. Let me upgrade you, as Beyonce said 20 years ago, but I still repeat. It's Jeremy Amend. Welcome back to the show.
Hello.
And he's been here more than a few times with suggestions from all over the place. I was looking through your suggestions. Richard Thompson, Ned's Atomic Dustbin, Poster Children, Milk, Little John. No Big Chuck yet, but we're hoping. That's a Cleveland reference only. Did they get Big Chuck and Little John down in Cincinnati, Jeremy?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, no, that's a very Cleveland.
That's very Cleveland, yeah.
All we got down here was a syndicated Bob and Tom, the show where it's like 90% laughter.
If I tried to explain Big Chuck and Little John, I don't think I could.
No.
It's just, you had to have been in the Cleveland area in the, I guess, 80s and 90s. I don't know how
70s.
far back. 70s too?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know how far back.
It used to be Big Chuck and Houlihan.
Oh, what happened to Houlihan? Oh, we'll see. Well, that's a whole podcast episode we need to get into.
I know.
What happened to Houlihan?
Mm-hmm.
But let's focus on this episode, which is Jeremy bringing to us another interesting record that we have not heard. I mean, I've heard of Richard Thompson and Ned's Atomic Dustbin, but I had not listened to those albums. So for this episode, Jeremy, you dipped into the 2000s. What album did you go with?
Lost Time by 12 Rods.
And how did you come upon this band and this album?
They were mentioned, like 97X liked to mention them a bit because they were Ryan Olcott and Evan Olcott, the brothers, were born and raised in, or at least raised in Oxford, Ohio. I know they went to high school there, and their parents, at least one of their parents, taught at Miami University. And so they were talked about in the mid 90s a little bit, like maybe 96 or so. I would hear about them, but you wouldn't really hear anything from them. And then I just went into a record store up there. It doesn't exist anymore, called Looney T-Birds. And at the counter, they had these things that they had self-released, which is just a little plastic sleeve with their first EP in it, which is like a little card in for the notes. And it was like $5. And I was like, sure, I've heard about this band, local band, let's check it out. And so I got it, turned it on, and I was immediately hooked. I was just like, I've never heard anything like this ever. And so then shortly after that, their first album came out, and I think that's the only album that I bought of theirs that I actually bought used. I just found like a promo copy of it. And got that, and again was pretty blown away. I mean, there's some things we can get into later where that didn't blow me away, but I still felt like overall I was blown away by the album. And so I just continued to follow them, and they, eventually, because V2 signed them with that album release, I think they, got Todd Rundgren involved, and a friend of mine from high school was a huge Todd fan, so I was kind of like, hey, this is kind of cool. This is like this guy that my friend is a huge fan of, and he's a big time producer and has done some things that I've been interested in, and so I checked that out, and it was a little poppy and weird and upset a lot of the fans. And then the band, it looked like they were just breaking up. I mean, the drummer left during the recording of that, and then I don't even think I saw an announcement of this album. I think I just saw it for sale soon after it came out, in 2002 or whenever it was, and just immediately bought it and just thought like, oh wow, they're going to continue to make music. But then soon after, I found out that they had called it quits after I think they toured for this album for a little bit. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been following them since I picked up their first self-released piece. I just was, a little, but they did do one more album. I'm going to say they did an album. I think it was really just Ryan, and it was older songs that he just pieced together. But yeah, they're done. This was just an exciting find for me. It's kind of like when I discovered that Sloan had put out Navy Blues. I had no idea. Nobody was playing the songs. I just walked into a record store and I happened to see it. And I was like, what the hell is this? So pleasant surprise, but unlike Sloan, this band has pretty much wrapped it up.
I don't know if you have done any like deep dives on the internet regarding 12 Rods, but I came up with a review from not too long ago. It was actually 2022. And I pulled some information from it, but one of the things you mentioned, Todd Rundgren, apparently they didn't have a great time with him because Ryan said he was the last person to show up at each session and the first one to leave.
Mm-hmm. And they said that he would just click record and then play crossword puzzles while they did all the work in the studio. And he said in interviews with him, he said that the band just knew what the hell they were doing. He didn't feel like he really had to do much of anything because they were already pretty accomplished in the studio, and like it was kind of weird. I felt like he didn't, from my impression, he didn't give them a lot of guidance and didn't guide the production or anything after the fact other than to just make it more poppy. That was like the only effect that he had on the thing, is just that it was locked in, very pop oriented compared to their other albums. I still like it, but I understand the bad review that album got after the 10.0 and 9.8 of their first two efforts on like Pitchfork and stuff like that.
Jay, had you ever heard of 12 Rods before?
No, and I'm kind of surprised. I mean, between the Ohio connections and the style of music they're playing, this would have seemingly been on my radar, but it wasn't. Now, I did recognize the album cover because Jeremy uses it as his Apple Music icon. And I just pieced that together. But I was like, why do I know this album cover? I was like, oh, because I've been staring at it on Apple Music and not even knowing what it was. But no, I never heard the band name. Had no idea what I was getting into either. Had you, Tim?
No, I feel like I'd maybe heard the name 12 Rods, but I might be mixing that up. Wasn't there a band? Was it a real band called J-Rod and the Aliens? Or did you and Keith make that up? I feel like you used to talk about that at band practice, J-Rod and the Aliens. Maybe that was our alter ego when we would play secret shows. I don't know. But anyway, no, I had no idea what 12 Rods were. And there was a lot of discussion about what 12 Rods meant in the Discord. If you want to find out what's going on with the 12 Rods discussion, you join our Discord, you join us at Patreon.
It's not a great band name.
It doesn't really evoke anything.
No.
Like, what does that mean?
It's also confusing in that apparently he got it from a children's Bible story book. There's some mention of 12 rods in a Bible story, and that's where he got it from. And so you would think, oh, then they must be a Christian band, or at least kind of, a little religious, or at least adjacent. And no, if anybody bought the album thinking that it had any sort of
right.
faith-based stuff in it, they're going to be sorely, they're going to be a little upset.
Yeah.
Now, it's not listed in Wikipedia, shockingly, but do you know what album or what label this came out on?
I know it was re-released on Justin Vernon's Chigliak label about 10 or so years ago.
Okay.
I can't remember. I have it right here, though. What the heck is it released on?
Jaguar?
Well, Chigliak is part of Jaguar.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't really have any sort of now that you mention it, there's not really any mention of a label on here. It really seems like they just did it on their own.
Just self-released, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's the booklet itself. They just do this clever thing where they put the name and the title here, and then it just continues to be printed around the edge, and then continues to be printed across the bend here, and onto the other side, and then continues around the edge to the other side. And there's nothing. That's the only text on it. There's
Don't even say like where it was recorded or band members or anything like that.
I'm sure it does have the band members. It says Integral Studio or Integral, depending on how you want to, and depending on whether you're a mathematician or not. In St. Paul, which I don't know if that's like its own studio or if that's just what they name their own thing.
That's interesting. Okay, because they have a connection to Minnesota. They have 2 live albums at First Avenue.
Oh, they moved to Minnesota by the time I bought that thing at the store, the first thing that I got from them, I think they were already in Minnesota.
So wait, their plan was to move from Cincinnati to Minnesota to expand
to Oxford. From Oxford to Minnesota. Oxford. I mean, they probably, thought, well, there's already a relatively big band that's broken out of Cincinnati. Maybe we should try our luck elsewhere. Let's go to Minnesota because nobody famous has come from Afghan Wigs.
Oh,
in the mid-90s.
Yeah, I never considered them having really broken. I mean, like they never really got that mainstream success that like other bands did. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I thought you meant Throneberry.
Oh no.
Or the Ass Ponies.
I was gonna say clearly I meant the Ass Ponies.
Yeah, the Ass Ponies.
Don't call me little bastard.
So Jay and I were not familiar with this record. Let's see if some of our patrons knew this record or how they responded to it. Willie Dillon said, "This is a fun album. I'm hearing an interesting mix of pop punk, alt rock, and dance. Tell me if I'm crazy for hearing that. There are some surprising flourishes, bass lines, and production choices that elevate this above more straightforward peers. Worthy album. On the flip side, this was interesting, but not my kind of thing. It felt like they had too many ideas and not enough songs, and it ends up a bit wacky. Decent single, but still an interesting suggestion that I'm glad I've heard now. That was Gavin. And then Ian Perfunctory provided his commentary. We shall share. I like that you tried to imitate Ian's style. You tried to AI his style. But nobody can really capture the essence of Ian's comments. He said 12 rods. Sounds like the number of metal rods banging against my ears. This album makes sitting at home with tinnitus more enjoyable. The album title is apt, as that is 40 minutes of my life I'll never get back and could have used to listen to better music. I'd rather download an exe file off of LimeWire than this album. The comedic stylings of one Ian McIver. We can just compile these and put them into a book, probably. The Ian Diaries.
Zingers.
Yeah. It's just a couple bits of information. You mentioned they're from Oxford, Ohio, 92 to 2004. Then they got together again, or sort of whatever. It's Ryan's band, I guess. In 2015, and then in 2021, they still have an active website. You can go to the official site of 12 Rods and get yourself a 12 Rods, T-shirt, I guess.
Well, he scrapped the. I think that the last tour they did, he scrapped due to. I think my son said that he saw a video where Ryan said it was due to insubordination. And so now I think Ryan is just doing like a solo tour to finish it out.
Insubordination. What is it? The Army?
I don't know. And also, the keyboardist just died recently. His new keyboardist.
I mean, that's
that
insubordinate.
was part of that band. Yeah, he refused to live. He was like,
Right.
"I'm not. I either have to continue living and perform with Ryan's band, or I'm just gonna." No, I mean that sounds horrible,
some
but
dark humor we have just.
no, I mean he on the 12 Rods website. I think he posted like a little dedication to him and stuff.
Got it.
So if there was any sort of acrimony, I don't think it was with the keyboard player.
I would imagine it's hard to like tour constantly with a band at this level, just because the touring situation in the United States is not great for smaller bands.
Mm-hmm.
So we're better off probably doing a solo tour, just where you could take a guitar in a car and drive around and play shows, rather than trying to like. Oh my!
I think that would be called we're not touring because of total lack of business viability, not insubordination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Customers are being insubordinate by not coming.
That could be.
See, what they need to do is start a subscription process that locks you in. You have to pay a reoccurring fee. That's how it's supposed to work in the 21st century. There's no more buying your things or going to places. It's just subscription fees. Everything. Monthly subscription fees. Let's talk about Lost Time by 12 Rods. Jay, what works for you on this record?
Well, right out of the gate, I think, with let's say the first 2 tracks, you can hear, it's going to be a little bit ambitious, experimental, maybe even. And then once the second track comes in and you actually get into the songs, I'm struck right away. I can tell I'm going to hear, somebody who has maybe a music education. There's a sensibility here with like the melodies. You can kind of sense a little bit of that Brian Wilson thing going on, like in terms of like the choices of the notes and the melodies they're picking. Vocally, it sounds a little bit like in this, even melodically, like in the Ben Folds kind of Eels space.
Haunted by a pattern, dirt in my shoe, rock in my soul, no pain at all. 'Cause there's a hole for my toe. I might catch your cold, but I'll bust it like I did before. Don't cop me no attitude. I'm not in the mood. Ooh, I need an answer. Faith, magic, 8 ball. Ooh, I need an answer. So I don't get in trouble. Ooh, I need an answer. Faith, magic, 8 ball. Ooh, I need an answer.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get a smart, pop record, which I'm excited about. It's going to be melodic and interesting. But then you get to track 3, and then it really reveals what the real sound of the band is, which is more of that with, this contrasting, aggressive guitar, keyboard, drum approach. So you've got this mashup of, at the core, these melodic, pop songs that are kind of complex and, sophisticated, but then there's this aggressiveness that's coming through in a way that's also unexpected, because it's not just, turn on the distortion and kind of layer in heaviness or bombast. There's also a sophistication to like how the guitars are layered and how they're working with the keyboards that is more like a Shiner or Failure or one of those bands. So it's a really interesting combination of, kind of artistic, spacey, ambitious rock stuff, but then this melodic, at times kind of, sweet and, traditional kind of 60s pop stuff, vocals and harmonies and melodies. As the album unveils, those 2 things are constantly, I think, in push and pull, which works really well. There's a ton of dynamics here. a lot of surprises. They're working a lot with everything you can play with. Like, yes, melody, which I've talked about, but there's also a lot of really cool rhythm stuff here. Playing around with pauses and hesitations and timing, and they're layering in lots of different, keyboards and synths and tones and different guitar sounds. And um, all along the way, you're still getting those harmonies that are dropping in, or um, all kinds of little goodies of, you know, different synths and whatnot. Um, I think to call it a song that brings these things together really well, Summertime Vertigo to me is a really good example of where it's a really cool use of tension and release. It's not like you build, 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 then release. It's like this constant like cycle that's going on through the song of them kind of playing with time a little bit, and then these big guitar chords and cymbals, and then pulling back and then releasing. And it's really clever from just a rhythm standpoint. It's a little slower, but it also has a lot of like energy to it. It's a really interesting song.
26, I'm tired. My wife's leg's on fire. Gonna burn your penthouse down. Burn it with a smile. 'Cause in the shapes of our lives, we're cornered by sides. Guided by choices that keep me in at night. Summertime vertigo. Summertime vertigo. Summertime vertigo.
There's things on here where it has your head bobbing, great rock groove, but then all of a sudden it'll turn on a dime into a really kind of big lush chorus, and it's kind of heady, or maybe the drums get a little jazzy, or there's um, a little fill or unexpected hesitation. There's all these little surprises. It's just very dynamic. um, I think as I was trying to piece it together, like, what is this sounding like? I heard some contemporaries, I mentioned some of them that are not similar at all. I mean, there's nothing you would think that it's similar between like a Ben Folds and a Shiner, but like I'm hearing both of those things here on this record. But I'm also hearing bands like Minus the Bear. They do some stuff on here with clean guitars too. That's really interesting. And like really tight rhythms and bass grooves, and then layering on these kind of chiming guitars on top. I heard um Paramore quite a bit, both the early Paramore, which is like a super kind of, you know, high energy, heavy guitar sound, and then the new Paramore, which is a little more new wavy. And you hear both of those types of, like, both spectrums of that band, which kind of almost don't sound the same, but on this record, which is really interesting to me. It made me feel like they have to be fans of this band or this album. It's almost would be too much of a coincidence for so many of the ideas that are here, what they maybe took and fine-tuned and turned into their own thing. So there's a lot of callbacks here that I enjoyed. It in And I think in that same way of those bands, I can hear 2000 early 2000s here, but also if you told me this came out this year, I would believe you. I mean, there's nothing other than maybe some particular drum and sounds here and there that a little bit like late 90s, early 2000s, but for the most part, it's living in both those two worlds. It's kind of living in that early 2000s era, but also sounds really creative and fresh, and production wise, it's on point. There's nothing about it that screams, early 2000s or dated. So I found that a lot of fun too and enjoyed that. So that's all that worked for me. It's a, I think there's solid songwriting here with a lot of really clever dynamics and performance elements that make it a lot of fun to listen to. So that's work for me. How about you, Tim?
Well, this is a weird record, but I like it. This thing goes all over the place. If whoever did you say they were signed to V2 at some point?
Yeah, it's the only major label they had.
I feel bad for their A&R guy. How do you sell this band in 2000 or 99 when you have to be concise and be like emo, pop punk, new metal, that kind of thing? Like, where does this band fit in? Like, take a song like Boy in the Woods, which starts out with that like very specific drum sound that it's like almost mechanical sounding or like a loopish, but probably like EQ'd real drums or something. And then you get this massive slide guitar part that sounds like it's, I don't know if like a jellyfish or something. Like, there's just so much happening on this record that is bizarre and weird and fun. Like you, I heard such disparate not influences, but similarities. Some sounded like the weirder parts of Dismemberment Plan, minus the bear, like you mentioned. The weird progressive power pop of Jellyfish at times. His hooks, when they hit, are huge. Like 24 Hours Ago, that's just Hook City. Just keeps coming back around. And there's a lot of them on this record. Accidents Waiting to Happen. He's got an ear for that really good vocal hook that you can repeat it over and over again and do it in different ways that make it not like sound like you're just singing the same thing for 3 minutes straight. Like this is so more advanced than I was expecting. There are jazz chords in these songs. Weird like fifths and sevenths and augmented. There's stuff that sounds like fusion. All of a sudden, like you're getting like just weird, crazy stuff happening. And yet at its core, I can totally hear this fitting in. Like I could see this band opening for Minus the Bear in like 2002. Or I don't think Minus the Bear was around yet, but you get what I'm saying. Like in that early 2000s, this totally could have been a band or touring with Dismemberment Plan or something like that, because it has elements of everything, not the more aggressive end of what was happening then, but definitely like the weirder experimental pushing on non-90s influences, like really getting into some weird, I hesitate to say like Genesis, but like there is some weird 70s progressive rock stuff that's happening in here. It's a little more poppy than what those bands are doing, but there are some just crazy shifts in tone between songs and even within songs, like I mentioned with Boy in the Woods. And the fact that they open it up with this little weird instrumental, start with a very slow song. So I'm like, well, what is happening here? Is this like going to be like a slowcore band? And then they blow the doors off with 24 Hours Ago. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to sit back and take in what's happening here. I don't know how to like process everything. Cause then one thing that does not belong, like if you take that reminds me of like photo album era Death Cab or something. It doesn't make sense is what it comes down to. Like they should not be able to pull off this much variety while making it sound cohesive. But for the most part, they do. I would just listen to this and let it roll, and I would actually put on just repeat the album so it could just, because I didn't, at a certain point I was like, where does the album begin and end? I don't even, and the only way to tell was that little instrumental part, because the songs are so crazy. They all work though in terms of like, I always remembered when I got to that song, like, oh, okay, I remember where this is going. Like, this has got some wild stuff happening. So a lot worked for me on this record. Jeremy, you brought this to us. What works for you that made you suggest this album?
Well, to preface what I have to say, I just wanted to comment on two things that you mentioned that you might want to go check out.
Okay.
I mean, you didn't mention them, but you kind of tied into them. One is on the album before this, the Todd Rundgren produced album. There's a song, I think it might be the last song on the album, if I'm not mistaken. No, actually, it's the third to last song, not the second to last, the third to last. It's called Rock and Roll Band, and it's a very slow song, poppy song, but by the end, it's like he's kind of bemoaning the fact that they're all these different things, you know, that there's not a classification for them, you know, like, you know, first the chorus is, you know, it ends with I'm in a rock and roll band, but then it's like, you know, space rock band, progressive rock band. He's like saying all these different things at the end, and it's like, because nothing really fits. The other thing is, you mentioned Dismemberment Plan. I don't know if you're gonna be able to find it easily because I don't think it's on any of the streamers, but I'll see if I can dig up my copy and share it. Ev Olcott, the brother who does mainly the keyboards and like backing vocals and stuff like that, he plays guitar and stuff too. He did a remix of The City by Dismemberment Plan, which is like probably my favorite song on that album. That's not my favorite Dismemberment Plan album either. My favorite one is this one back here, which most people don't care for.
Change.
Yeah. But the his remix is it's got a little bit more of a dancey feel to it. But the really cool thing about it is there's a trumpet solo in it performed by their father. So their father was he played a lot of stuff, but I think he was a instructor for brass musicians or something like that. And it's really cool, especially when you consider the fact that their father really wasn't buying into any of the stuff that they were doing early on. According to Ryan, it was this last thing that they just did a couple years ago where he finally was like, hey, this is pretty good. So he's been going all these years, he's been trying to get his father's approval. And even though he wasn't really saying that he was doing great stuff, at least he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do a trumpet solo for this remix. Oh, that's great.
Is that on that compilation? I think it's called The People's History of the Dismemberment Plan.
Yeah, which is a horrible compilation.
Yes,
in my opinion. But I think there's maybe 2 songs on it that I like or maybe can stand. And Ev's remix is one of them. I can't remember what the other song is. The rest of it is just absolute garbage. Apologies to anybody that likes that thing. But
no, you're 100% correct. Don't back down.
Yeah.
It's really bad. As is his solo album.
So the thing for me, the thing that I really liked that really worked for me with this album, it's weird in that sometimes it doesn't work for me, and that's that the drummer is Dave King and it's not Chris McGuire. Because if you go back and you listen to, pay no attention to the Rundgren album, because Chris McGuire's drumming was really kind of, again, they kind of made things very, very poppy and focused. But the album, their only album before that, and the EP, Chris McGuire's drumming was like one of the things that first stood out to me when I listened. I was just like, man, he's just a beast, and he does these like tribal things, and it's just really, really cool. And that's totally missing from this album, but it was kind of refreshing in a way because it was like it's like, oh, I wonder what this band sounds like when they just get a different drummer and the style is. I know that Ryan's kind of driving the style of the stuff, but and I think that Dave King could probably play anything if he really wanted to, but it's focused more on kind of a jazziness. Um, and you get that right from the first legit song on the album when the drums, like at the beginning of the song, the drums do this like stutter jazz fill that sounds wrong. It sounds like somebody screwed up and they just kept the recording. Um, but after I listened to it the first time and I was like, whoa, what was that? Now when I listen to it, it's like, oh, it's really quirky and weird and unexpected. And I actually kind of like that. And there's some things in there that the drum production is just really different. I think there's some more drum programming. There's a couple of songs where the drums are really overdriven compared to the rest of them.
Yep.
And so it's a different approach on that end of things than what I was used to from before. That's the first thing that I really noticed when I listened to it. But like what I feel are like the hooks and the little jazzy things that Ryan Alcott throws in there and the melodies, that's all still there. So the album, it still had me hooked from beginning to end. It's probably sometimes it's my favorite. Sometimes Split Personalities is my favorite. But it's always a joy to listen to. Even if for some reason if I wanted to listen to Split Personalities and I couldn't play it, and this was the only thing I had, I'd be perfectly fine with that. It's just yeah, I mean, everything that you guys are saying is just just there's a lot of unusual little bits in here, and I think some people just see it as kind of scatterbrained. But I think that everything that they do is with purpose. I think there's forethought into everything. I don't think there's a lot of improvisation on this or a lot of, oh, hey, we made a mistake in the studio, let's stick with that. I think it's all stuff that Ryan hears in his head and is just like, well, this is how I want it. And that's how it comes out on the album.
Yeah, the drums are very unique. Obviously, I haven't heard the other drummer, but that was one of the things that stood out to me is that it's combining like jazz sensibilities, but it does rock. Sometimes when you take that approach on a record, it's trying to do what this is doing. It maybe gets too soft or lost or too complicated, but they have a good sense of when to lay into the heavy parts and how to do that in a way that, things get thick and sound right. And then also, like you were saying, drop these fills and little switch ups and whatnot that are just at first, you just don't expect them. You just don't see them coming. And it's just makes it kind of fun. And there's just like a jazzy feel sometimes of the way that some of the parts are played too. Some of the snare fills and things that you just wouldn't normally hear from a rock drummer. It just adds. And then you said like the production across the record. Normally I would be probably critical of that, like the drums changing so much, but somehow they're making it all work. Either over compressing them or distorting them or doing little tricks that make them sound, I don't know if they're sampled or what's going on, and all of a sudden on a dime it just flips and you're like, no, that's a real drummer. But a second ago it didn't sound like a real drummer. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I think
and also I think Ryan was a drum student when so that was like his thing. And then I think it's in the Substack story that you all put up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might mention that he was going to, I think, go to school and be a drummer or, drum corps. I don't know what he's going to do, but then somebody asked if he could put a band together, and that's kind of how things started. So,
hey, there aren't enough bands. Can you put one together?
Yeah, right, in Oxford. Well, I don't know. I don't know if there are a lot of bands in Oxford. Everybody only cares about drinking and chasing girls up there.
I thought that was Ohio University.
They're basically there's the two peas in the same pod, honestly. I mean, it's very similar as far as that goes.
Okay.
I don't know about Ohio University, but Miami was like, at least when I lived up there and when I went to school up there, it was, I swear it was like 65% female student population. So, you know, there was for the women, there was slim pickings. So lots of guys chasing their own girls, I guess. I don't know. Should have
Well, they
been
were
the
mech
opposite way.
schools, so I did not care for either of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's as a Falcon from Bowling Green. I think you guys are talking about the diversity of the record. His vocal is well produced, and it carries across the whole record. Like there are layers to it. He navigates a very interesting like middle ground with his vocal. It's not real high, but it's not. It's just a kind of it's like halfway between middle and high is the only way I can describe it. It's like I don't know. There's probably a technical term that Katie's probably in the
like alto.
Like maybe that's what it is, but he's like he hits that like that end instead of all the way up or down like bassy or trebly. And I think like on a song like "The Time Is Right to Be Wrong," which could be like a new wave song, like that could be straight out of like if you tone the guitars down just a little bit, that could be straight out of like a 1980s new wave power pop band catalog.
Yeah.
And Ryan produced this from what I see in the notes.
Yeah.
So this is entirely his vision. And so he did a good job of keeping the consistency, even though there's lack of consistency in the styles of the song, there's consistency in the use of really wide swinging dynamics from track to track and within the tracks. And then also just like keeping his vocal identifiable throughout the record. I think this would have failed if he tried to do like lots of very strange voices, like if he tried to like whisper through a song or something, stuff like that, or try to do like a Nick Cave or something like that. Him staying to his true voice is probably what helps the record stay consistent when it's all over the place at the same time. For me.
Well, my joke criticism, I mentioned something that I think my wife was the first person to point it out to me when I was listening to one of their albums. She said he kind of sounds a little bit like Ozzy Osbourne. Like his vocal approach has a little bit of an Ozzy feel.
Oh yeah, he is in that like
the way that he enunciates and and I was like, yeah, you're right. That is so that's why when I jokingly wrote my criticism, I think I said something about like off-brand Ozzy vocals or something like that.
Now that makes sense.
Yeah.
It didn't before I heard the band, but now it does. Jay, what doesn't work for you?
Maybe the sequencing is probably my biggest issue. I don't love how the album starts. It's an odd decision. A minute of kind of intro, almost concept album type thing, and then the first song kind of an R&B groove. It's probably fine enough. It's just once you hear the rest of the record on repeat listens, I just want to skip to track 3. I just don't even want to listen to the first 2 songs. My other, I don't know if it's a problem, but I'm also scratching my head a little bit on like Terrible Hands and The Time Is Right are a lot of fun. It's kind of where they really go from high energy and, ambition to, hey, we can do those things and also kind of do it with a smile. And those come at the tail end of the record. I'm just wondering, like, why not make The Time Is Right maybe track 2, kind of get the poppiest song up front? I don't know. I just don't quite. There's some sequencing here potentially to take me on a little bit more of a ride of what the band does, and uh, maybe have this tell a little bit more of a story than it does. I think it all holds together. I think it's produced so well, and the vision is strong enough that there's no songs on here where you're like, oh, well, this has no place on the record. It's more, for me, I think, a sequencing problem that can make some of these fit a little better. Lost and Found is another like weird, almost experimental track that is sandwiched between like the poppiest song and then Telephone Holiday, which is this really high energy, cool, like new wave. It's essentially two new wave songs with this experimental track in the middle of them, which I don't understand. So I think there's a little bit more of a story this album could tell in terms of, you know, pop sensibilities to maybe the different genres of the band or the different flavors of the band, kind of gradually take me through that to maybe the more challenging things and then bring me back out again and then resolve somewhere. I just don't get a sense of a journey with the sequencing here. So that would probably be my biggest critique. I don't know that, it's only 38 minutes. It's hard to say if you're in for most of the stuff here that you would trim any of it. I just think some of it's underserved because of where it's placed. How about you, Tim? What didn't work?
Yeah, this album is almost sequence backwards.
Yeah.
I understand what they were trying to do with the first track, this little like introduction track. But going into Fake Magic 8 Ball after that is such a weird choice. And maybe that's the point. It's the weird choice. So that's the choice that they made. But go to 24 Hours Ago or The Time Is Right. Something to punch you in the face after that weird intro.
I mean, to play out the reverse order thing, if you get Telephone Holiday in there right away, just the way that song starts, it's that sharp kind of new wave feel, clean guitars. It just sets up this whole other expectation about what this band's going to be and kind of gets you in the right mindset, kind of into the groove of the record. It's just, it could be a totally different experience.
I'm actually testing it right now, playing it backwards. It works. It actually, because then Lost and Found is only 2.5 minutes as the second track. So you're like, okay, you get a little reprise, and then you're back in with like two rockers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that 24 Hours Ago is all the way in the back, but then you get such a sweet record or song in the back end.
Yeah.
And then you get to chill out with Fake Magic 8 Ball and Universal Time. Look, we solved it. That's the issue. This would have sold at least platinum once if we had reversed the order of the songs. Maybe just make the songs backwards in general. Maybe we'll see what would happen with that. I don't know, but that's the only thing I really have a problem with is the running order. It's just wonky. It takes a little bit to get into the record. With the record, I feel like what it really is, which is tracks 3 through 11. So that's my only complaint.
And that's something a producer could help.
Yeah, maybe a famous producer who was maybe part of a 70s rock scene. Oh wait, that guy wasn't interested on the last one. So
Michael McDonald or something. I mean, come on.
I wonder what Rick Ocasek would have done with like this, knowing his penchant for like keyboard bands and stuff. Maybe.
I think he would have loved to have the opportunity to do this album.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
We need to retroactively connect producers with records.
Yeah.
Is there anything that doesn't work for you on the record, Jeremy, other than it not working for you on certain days?
So it's obviously, as when we get to the part about the polls, first of all, I'm going to confess, I tried to read the Substack thing, and when I went to scroll, my finger hit the poll, and it voted decent single. on the Substack poll.
Oh,
And
you're
I
the
couldn't
decent single guy.
Well, there's more than one in there, but
Yeah.
I couldn't unvote mine. I couldn't remove it. And I was just like, what the hell? Because if you do that on the Patreon one, you can just remove it. That's fine. But on Substack, it's like, no, it is sealed. It is set in stone. So I'm going to give voice to some of the decent single and better EP voters, and I'm going to nitpick a little bit. I made some notes. There's not a lot, but trying to think of where I made notes about things where I'm just like, okay, that's a little. So first nitpick is Summertime Vertigo. I feel like the only thing missing from that song is that, and this isn't always bad, but in this case, I think it's a detriment, is that the chorus is just the name of the song repeated. That it happened, but plenty of songs are like that. But in that song, especially just the dynamics and everything, I just felt like the chorus could have been something more. Just another line that rhyme. It doesn't even have to rhyme. Just another line in there would have been fine. I still love the song, but that's my nitpick for that. And then Accidents Waiting to Happen. Again, I love the song, but I'm assuming this was Ryan's idea. I guess it had to be that through all of the verses, Ev is just hitting the same goddamn note on the keyboard. Like, dun, 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 dun. It's just like, it's just that one note over and over again. And it's like, why is it even? It's you could break it up a little bit, like have that drop out and then come back in, or change the structure of it a little bit, even though it's a single note. Just break it up a little bit. It just felt very much like they were trying to annoy on purpose. Is how I felt. Again, I love the song, but I know that somebody sitting next to me has never heard this band. If that's the first song I play for them, they're probably going to be like, "Can somebody shoot the guy on the keyboard, please?"
My wife would totally say that.
Yeah. And then Terrible Hands. This is probably more a problem. It's actually me. I'm the problem here. I think is that there's no lyrics in the album art. So I'm horrible at hearing lyrics too. No matter how clearly somebody enunciates, I'm going to screw something up. When he says punching bag, for years, I thought he was saying something else that it includes a homophobic slur. And again, knowing him and his thoughts on, like that, I knew that he wasn't a homophobe, but I was like, I just wish that he wouldn't have said that. And it just doesn't make any sense. And then when I finally had access to the lyrics, I was like, oh, okay, I can hear what he's saying now, I guess. But it didn't sound like punching bag for the first few years that I listened to that album. And I still kind of cringe when I listen to it. I'm like, oh, wait, nope, he says punching bag. I'm okay. So that's probably more on me and my, Midwest racist, homophobic upbringing that I had.
You just want to hear it.
Yeah, apparently.
Your ears are just searching for it. They're hungry for.
Although I did say for Terrible Hands that it's my favorite spelling chorus since Faith No More's Be Aggressive. Where somebody spells something out in the chorus. Yeah. It's like, The Time Is Right to Be Wrong. Love the song again, but I think it could have about 30 seconds to a minute cut off of it, because the chorus is great, but it doesn't need to go on for as long as it did. That could have been cut a little bit. Maybe we can get the album under 40 minutes or whatever if we just cut that a little bit. I think that's probably those are my only real nitpicks for it. Other than that, it doesn't make me skip a song or anything like that. It's just just sometimes if I'm not in I might cringe a little bit at certain little things here and there and be like, this could stop. I'm not going to skip it. I'm not going to skip the last 40 seconds or minute of a song, but boy, they could. And I love long albums, but I'm talking like Failure or something like that, where it's an adventure from beginning to end. Yeah. And it's okay that it's long. But just little nitpicks here and there. Other than that, nothing major to complain about. I'm even okay with the sequencing. I do agree. I mean, it could be sequenced into a better album. I do agree, but the sequencing doesn't bother me.
That's odd because you voted decent single. Now that I'm looking over at,
Yeah.
So clearly we weren't. No.
This sounds like a band that, not hearing, just listening to you talk about the the catalog and the experience with Rundgren. It sounds like a band that struggled a little bit to figure out, like, do we want to be a pop band or do we want to be, an alternative band, whatever that means. Do our own thing, an album band.
Well, I think they always had pop sensibilities. I mean, you can, from the beginning to the end, you can always hear that. You can always feel it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they necessarily wanted to be a pop band, but I think V2 was really like, you guys need to break through. You had before Pitchfork deleted the reviews, which I guess they did at some point, you had a 10.0 EP, you had a 9.7 debut album, which we distributed, but you're not selling, you're not breaking through. We're going to team you up with this producer. And between the producer saying, I want this to be more pop, and the label saying, I want this to be more poppy, I think that actually some of these songs came from their older songs, like their songs that they were working on when they were doing the Todd Rundgren album, but they weren't songs that were ever going to get on that album because, Todd was probably like, oh, no, these are the ones that you want to use. This is where you want to go.
But is this a band that we think should have leaned even more into being an experience? Like you said, failure. Like when you listen to a failure record, like you're in for an experience. Like just fully embrace that. Keep all the pop sensibilities. Like you don't have to change a whole lot. I think we're talking about sequencing, maybe shuffle up some songs here and there, do a little editing. Is this a band that should have fully embraced, like, all right, we tried to do the pop thing, it didn't work. We're going to put together an album that's fully an experience. Or does this album feel like a half measure?
If you check out their debut, if you check out Split Personalities, it still has some like poppy feel to it, but it's got a lot. Well, it ends very poppy, but it's I think for the most part it's got more consistent aggression in it than this album has. It's just the thing with Ryan is he writes really weird lyrics, and I don't think that it's by mistake. A lot of times, especially on that album, there are things that sound like they're coming from like a child or a junior high school kid. And even like some like grammatic weirdness, where it's like, that didn't really make sense. You didn't conjugate your verb properly. Something weird happened there. Yeah, I really feel like the EP, the first album, and this all makes sense. And it's just that Rundgren album that's just such an outlier. Again, I like the album, but I understand that it turned off a lot of their fans and still didn't break big enough for them to do anything.
Is that streaming? I don't see it. You said what is it called?
The Separation Anxieties, the Rundgren album.
Oh, I see it. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
2000
should be out there. Yeah, cool artwork though. A lot of like, I don't know if that's Japanese characters or what that is on there, but yeah. It's when I got it, I was like, oh yeah, cool. It's, Todd Rundgren and legitimate, real money behind the production. This is going to be great, and it's fun. It's poppy. It's just not the sonic adventure that all the rest of their stuff is.
All right.
So,
and oddly enough, it's longer. It's 52 minutes.
No, this band should never be that long.
Right.
No. Vinyl
Yeah, they have
length.
some long songs. They don't have like, you don't have like 8-minute long songs or anything like that, but they're pretty consistent. I think it's 12 songs on an album, and I think they're all
There's a 7-minute
pretty.
song.
Is that Rock and Roll Band?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that one
Too
might
long.
overstay its welcome a little bit.
Too long.
It's a fun song, but it's slow.
Then cut it in half. Call it Rock and Roll Band Part 1, Rock and Roll Band Part 2.
Yeah.
350.
Everybody's waiting, getting crazy.
Let's talk overall ratings for this album. Where the album, better EP, or decent single will show the poll results in just a moment. But Jay, where do you land?
I'm at a worthy album. I think the sort of Dayton area origin of this is noteworthy. We've talked about a couple Dayton bands now that are also
Mink,
very strange,
Mhm.
but also very cool.
Brainiac. Yep.
And this is a little bit of a hidden gem that I didn't know about. I like all the sounds here. I like the songwriting, and I'm intrigued to check out more of the catalog. How about you, Tim? Where you at?
Same. Where the album. I really dug it. It was a fun listen. I already added some songs to my big playlist, so there'll be some 12 rods popping up here and there while I'm driving around. So yeah, definitely a worthy album. Jeremy, lastly.
And despite what I put on Substack, I voted a worthy album as well. I almost picked a kind of Dayton band instead of this one. So, and it would have been more keyboard weirdness and whatnot, but I went with this one. Maybe I'll go with that one next time. And they're related to Brainiac. But they're not. They're really more of a New York band than a Dayton band. But
I think I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
Enon or Enon.
Yes,
What do you want to call it? John Schmerz. When you're talking about him, talking about Ryan not veering away, sticking with one voice, I was like, yeah, I really appreciate that on this album. But you know what I really also appreciate about the Enon albums is that John Schmerzel has like 3 or 4 different voices. And I just think that, and then they brought in the female bass player who also started singing on songs. And I was just like, that's just amazing. Like, I love the sound of that too. But yeah, this one, I appreciate the Ryan's consistency throughout his career with this. He had a vision, wrong or right. He stuck with it. Except for when he was counseled a little bit differently, or felt like something pop had to be made with that second album. Yeah, definitely a worthy album for me.
Well, I'm going to take your belief that you misvoted and say 100% of the people at our website went worthy album, and at Patreon, 57% went worthy album, 14% went better EP, and 29% decent single. So there was a split amongst the crowd.
I'm surprised they got any decent single votes other than the mistakes. That's shocking to me. I thought this would be right in the sweet spot for a lot of our audience.
You never know, Jay.
Disappointed in you people.
You let Jay down. You sons of bitches.
No, I knew going into it was going to be divisive. I honestly was thinking it was going to be like a 33 split. Just because I can listen to things and I enjoy them, but I can also be like, yeah, I can identify this or that as an absolute turnoff for people. It comes mainly from, a lot of driving around when my wife would be in the car and I'm just like, my playlist is going to be a little bit different. When we were younger, I was very aggressive about it. I'm like, nope, you're going to listen to this. I don't care if you hate it. It's going to be on the radio. But after a while, I was just like, no, I'm not going to bug people in the car with stuff that I know they just aren't going to care for. So,
I feel seen.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, again, my wife likes Dinosaur Jr. She likes a lot of stuff that I like.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
yeah, we bashed a couple things in their brains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it in there.
Yeah, well, she got hooked on Dinosaur Jr. with Without a Sound. So she picked them up a couple albums after I did, and just been hooked on them ever since.
Hey, I got nothing to complain about. I just went to see Ghost with my family.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My daughter loves Ghost. love it if I take her to a ghost show.
It was honestly one of the best concert experiences I've ever had. Not just because they were great, but because everybody had their phones in those yonder pouches, so nobody could take a phone out.
Nice.
It was like a pouch that you like they lock, but you keep, and then they unlock it when you leave. So there was no pictures. Nobody's holding up, trying to get video. Nobody's calling anybody. Nobody's checking their text. Everybody was just like fully locked in to the show. And it went like, I realized how fast it felt. It went because I wasn't checking the time. Like, oh, what time is it? Do I need to get going? Like, all of a sudden we were at the encore and we were like, holy cow, what?
Yeah.
So
it's like you were back in the 90s again.
It was. It was like seeing, I'm trying to remember a big band that I saw in the 90s, but they were all small bands. I never saw any, but Page Plant. It was like seeing Page Plant at Gundarena.
Nice.
With Rusted Root opening for them.
If you guys check out the older stuff from 12 Rods, in particular the EP, and you notice that the streaming, like the quality of it is poor, even though it'll say lossless probably. Let me know and I can probably share the rips of it so you can actually hear.
Don't say anything illegal. You're not sharing. Yeah. You might let us sample a listen. You won't be sharing.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
crossing any files across the internet illegally.
Yeah, I'll try and find a way so you can actually hear it. I mean, you could just stream it off of my server. That's certainly fine. It at some point they did like re-releases of stuff, and early on the streaming was really bad. And like the quality of the recording was really bad. And they actually had some unreleased material that you could buy in like bulk from like Bandcamp or something like that. And all of that was really bad too, because the best quality that they had that stuff in was like 128 kbps. It was brutal. I actually wrote to Ev Olcott, and I was like, is this intentional? Like, is there a higher quality set of files? And he's like, no, it's really, I think that they.
How do they not have any original recordings?
I think they made a poor decision in archiving this stuff. So they thought that it was stuff that nobody would ever really care about.
So there's two versions of Split Personalities. There's one that's copyright from V2, and there's another one that's copyright from E1 Music.
I would not be surprised if the E1 Music one sounds worse than the V2 Music one. Because E1, obviously, it's a joke. V2 and then E1 is probably Evan. Evan did it, but I mean, he actually does a good job with stuff. But I worry that they made poor decisions in archiving their own material and don't have access to the masters that V2 has, and are probably just trying to get a different amount of the streaming revenue by having their own copies out there.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if it sounds terrible. I mean, I have my own in my library, so I could just stream it from Apple Match or whatever it is that Apple's thing is. So
yeah, I did say.
Anyway,
all right. Well, we're past our hour mark here, so it'd probably be a good time to say thank you to Jeremy for joining us once again, bringing us a great record to share with our audience that we would have never discovered, even though they were like 2 hours away from us.
Well, just based on the band name alone, I've been like, I'm not listening to that.
Yeah. It's just a band that's made up of 12 dudes. They were going to call it Sausage Fest, but they changed their mind.
Right.
12 Rods. Yeah. Jay judging a book by its cover.
I mean, you got to judge it by something.
Yeah.
How about the contents of the book instead of just the cover?
How many
then you got to open it.
How many albums are there on Apple Music?
I think there's at least 10.
If I'm flipping by based on names, I'm not going to be like, ooh, I got to hear what 12 Rod sounds like.
Yeah.
It's a bad name. But what's good is the memories and positive vibes that this podcast provides to people like you. So help us by joining us at digmeoutpodcast.com. We have over 850 free episodes in our archive, history of the band posts, and weekly new release roundups. If you'd like more, you can become a paid subscriber and get bonus episodes from previous years of the 70s, 80s, and aughts rock episodes, which are now a part of our general Dig Me Out master universe, our interconnected decade universe, which we will call a century. A century of Dig Me Out. While you're over at digmeoutpodcast.com, you can suggest an album there. And those are the things that we like to discuss in the Discord. When somebody suggests a new record, we all start judging the suggestion immediately. Oh, God. Yeah, nobody's heard of Dookie. But you can suggest for any decade, and it will go into a poll from which we will have a winner that will be used as a episode. So you can do that without having to join. You just have to go to digmeoutpodcast.com, suggest a record. So for Jay, I'm Tim. We're out. I'll be back next week with another episode of Dig Me Out.